At the Global Cash Summit, we bring you voices who don't just talk about growth, they engineer it. And today's conversation is with someone who operates where most business owners never get access, inside the message before it becomes money. Because here's the truth. Every business is selling. Every sale is a conversation, and most businesses are leaking revenue, not because their offer is weak, but because their communication isn't designed to carry weight, which is why I'm honored to introduce Blair Bryant Nichols.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm excited to join you all.
Blair is the owner of BBN Creative Management, where he works with business owners, leaders, and high level experts to architect the way their ideas move through a business from first impression to buying decision. His work isn't about hype, it's about structure, positioning, and precision. Blair helps entrepreneurs translate expertise into clear offers, align messaging with buyer psychology, and build communication systems that support scale, not exhaustion. This is the kind of work that doesn't show up loudly on social media, but it's the reason some businesses grow steadily while others stay stuck explaining themselves. Blair operates at that level. Blair, welcome to the Global Cash Summit. Before we begin, I want to ground this for our audience. Blair's work is not about performance. It is about translation. In this conversation, you're going to learn why strong businesses fail to convert even with great products, how unclear messaging quietly caps revenue, what most entrepreneurs misunderstand about sales conversations, how to structure communication so it supports growth, not burnout. And this applies whether you run a service business, sell high ticket offers, lead a team, or are building towards your next level of scale. So, Blair, most business owners don't think of themselves as speakers. Why is that a mistake?
That's a mistake because, as you mentioned, everything is pretty much a sale. Everything is really you sharing your story and why someone should work with you or want to buy your products. So, especially if you're a business owner or a solopreneur, being able to adequately speak and get out there and share your message, talk about both your business and your products in a way that connects with audiences and potential customers in a different way is so much more powerful than relying on passive ways of marketing like digital ads, where you can dump so much money into trying to get new customers, into all these ways that we know take so many touch points before a lead turns into a customer. When you speak and when you get out in front of these potential clients, customers, or any kind of audience, you move them so much faster along that trust curve. You move them so much faster and better and more efficiently and effectively into connecting with you. So they want to learn more. They're more enticed to want to talk to you or have a call with you. You're also an expert. You're up on stage. So you've already differentiated yourself in so many different ways, but I'm sure we'll dive into all the details.
That's such an important reframe because when people hear the word speaking, they imagine a stage, but in reality, they're speaking every single day on their sales calls, in their discovery sessions, on content, in pitches, in leadership moments. So, what you're pointing to here is that revenue is really a communication outcome. And if the message isn't clear, the business struggles no matter how good the offer is. And now I know you help business owners move from explaining what they do to communicating value. Can you explain what the difference is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times people start out as subject matter experts, right? So when we think about presenting or talking in front of your colleagues, it might be on a particular topic. So you're just getting up there to go through your slides, maybe share some information. A lot of people associate that with being in school or academics or just giving a presentation, again, maybe to your professional conference on a very specific topic. When we are working with clients, we are helping them get to the level of keynote. And being a keynote speaker, someone that opens a conference, someone that's really taking more time and attention away from just one particular topic and bringing this audience on a journey. They're there to inspire, to motivate. Yes, they should be teaching and sharing their expertise, and that's all part of it too, is getting that right message, getting that right topic for those right audiences. But it's not just coming out and jumping into a presentation. There is storytelling, there's emotional connection, there's a lot more performance to it than simply conveying the information. So I think a lot of people might start off in that presentation mode if they're used to their industry conferences or work presentations, but that's not really what we're talking about when we talk about how to elevate to a higher level and what keynotes can then do, as far as for your business and for you personally.
That distinction is really massive. The explanation is about information, the value communication is about the decision making. And this is where so many businesses get stuck talking around the problem instead of naming it clearly enough that someone feels confident in saying yes. What I love about your approach is that it respects the intelligence of the buyer while still leading them decisively through the storytelling, etc. Now, I know that you mentioned keynote a couple times. Can we dive deeper into that a little bit? Because some people might not understand. What does it mean when we say that entrepreneurs really need to become keynote speakers?
Yeah. So when we talk about keynote speakers, we're talking about maybe a 45 to 60-minute talk. Usually it's one of the main events of an event or a conference. Usually these might be the opening speakers or the closing speaker or someone that has the entire audience at in front of them. Whereas there's a lot of conferences that might have breakout rooms and breakout stages and lots of speakers happening at once. Usually for a keynote speaker, they don't want to schedule anything else at the same time. And not every event is that massive. A lot of times, you're just on that agenda, but the other people speaking might be from that company or, part of that industry. The keynote speaker can be an outside expert or an outside professional person like the people that I work with. So it is a little bit different in that distinction. Like when we talked about what like a presentation might be, and that might be more of a breakout session. These are usually, bigger sessions, maybe a big idea. And there's hopefully some sort of draw to them, whether it's the topic, who they are, maybe they're an author, sometimes, there's celebrity keynoters, but it's more about kind of the prominence and the position of this talk in the event. And that's what differentiates, like everyone else on the agenda. I just wanted to say really quick though, like the point of kind of sharing all this is not to say you have to wait for that big stage or that big opportunity to make your session like a great keynote. If you've got a breakout stage, you can still tell a story and still teach. You don't have to make it like everyone else's breakout presentation, because then that's what's going to then get you opportunities to move up from where you're at. So I wanted to throw that in there because I know a lot of times the biggest problem people have is just thinking, oh, I'm never going to get there, or I'm not going to get there. So what's the point, or I'm not going to worry about that because that's not me. I'm happy to talk about my stuff over there. No, we're talking about technique. We're talking about how do you better tell stories because it's going to connect with these people because then they want to work with you. Again, it's not just, oh, I'm going to get up and talk about digital marketing and people will be impressed and like they'll say, oh, I need this and they're going to come work with me. Well, people buy emotionally. You know that. We all do. So people aren't just moved by data like in sales. It's the same thing. You have to tell a story. People, depending on how big these transactions really are, the relationships, some of the best salespeople are the ones who are the best storytellers. Anyone can recite facts and figures. People can look at a prospectus, and get all the details. And they know that they're just like the competitors because they have to meet a certain standard. So they work with the client who tells the better story, or they work with the people who connect with them emotionally because of how they tell stories or how they have resonated. So I'm not talking about just like you need to up level your speaking because if you're not speaking on the big stage, you're a loser. No, that's not it at all. It's that if you want to be as impactful as a keynote speaker, you start acting and doing the things that keynote speakers do in any opportunity you have, and you'll have that same measure of success and that same kind of growth.
Yeah, many entrepreneurs believe they have a marketing problem. In your experience, what's really happening underneath all that?
Well, I guess marketing is one way to talk about it, because for me, it's about positioning first and targeting, which I think are two big parts of marketing. But the marketing problem that they have is usually they're going so wide. So many times I hear from people, well, my message is for everyone. Well, I can speak to anyone. And maybe that's true. If it's a good keynote, there probably is a lot of like universality to it. There probably is some topic or strain that can apply to lots of different types of audiences. But unless you're known to everyone, if you're already a household name, you probably won't have much problem getting gigs. But if you're trying to build your brand, build your reputation and your experience, you might need to niche down. You might need to focus on the areas that know you best. If you're coming out of medicine, maybe focus on healthcare conferences where your background matters because they know you speak their language. They know that you have a connection to what they do. So I think in the marketing sense, how you position yourself and how you build your platform and what and who you really want to attract is what's so important. Because so many times people just think, well, I'm just going to go out and go after every company or go after every type of this thing or that thing, and they don't really get much traction because they're trying to already face an uphill battle, which is pitching cold to places that have an enormous amount of options, and they're not being strategic with how to use their background. So in that sense, I'd say that's the marketing part that people really need to get refinement on.
That's such a relief for people to hear, knowing that they can take something that is theirs, that is known to them, that's as easy as breathing, and really, instead of chasing another platform, another funnel, another tactic, you can really name the real issue. The message isn't doing the heavy lifting. The communication can be structured correctly, and then marketing becomes just amplification for that, not persuasion gymnastics, right? So that aligns so deeply with the cash clarity that work that we do inside the summit. And so what does it look like when a business owner finally gets their communication right? When they niche down, they're speaking to something that they are comfortable with, it's their wheelhouse. What does that look like?
Yeah, well, I think they see a steady ROI from their speaking. They can predictably know how many new customers they may get from a given speaking event, based on how many people are there and finding the right audience. They will see the growth that comes from those inbound leads and customers and what they can scale with that. And it really depends on every business. What I love is that I work with not just people who are speaking and getting paid to speak, but who are thinking about speaking strategically, who are thinking about how does this, scale into my products and services? How does this connect to that? Because I don't think it's sustainable to try to be on the road 365 days a year. Most anyone will tell you it's not very sustainable as a career doing whatever, whether you're speaking or a musician. It's very hard on you. So thinking about how speaking can just be optimized as a channel for you. Yes, it can be revenue, but it's also a channel for bigger opportunities or a volume of opportunities that you won't get in other areas. It's certainly not as efficiently and effectively as we talked about.
So it's not really about charisma, it's about the architecture of what you're creating so that your leadership really stabilizes, communication becomes clear, sales feel cleaner, teams align faster, clients self-select, and revenue becomes more predictable. So talk to me a little bit about architecture and what people need to think about when they are setting themselves up for success to be speaking, because they're speaking, as you said, in every aspect of their business.
Right. So I believe there's three pillars to the foundation of a sustainable speaking strategy. And I say strategy because this doesn't have to be your entire business. This is just one part of it. Maybe, you have a very successful business already and you just want to layer speaking on because you know that it will help you grow or help you scale. So this is just about how do you get more speaking opportunities and what do you do with them? How are you optimizing them and translating that into your products and services? So that first pillar is your speaking assets assets. Like if you're establishing yourself as an authority, you need to have very clear speaking topics. So many times I'll see speakers just list like a laundry list, and it might as well just be every topic that a business has. Like I can talk about marketing or sales or this. Like, that's boring. No one wants someone that can just talk on generally any topic. They want the expert on the topic that they're looking for, or they want the unique perspective in the field of everyone who's talking about something similar. So you have to both differentiate yourself, but also figure out how to craft your topic so it really just speaks to your customer. You can't be so clever to use your own jargon and your own vocabulary. You really want to speak to your core customer. What is their problem? Make sure when they see this topic that it aligns with, either a problem that they have or a solution they're looking for, a topic that they really want to explore. And then you can go a little deeper in the description, and then you've got takeaways. And so that's like a the meaty part of your speaker assets. But video is also the most important thing, because that's what you're selling. You're showing yourself in action. And I know, again, this is where speakers really struggle getting good video. Oh, I don't have it, or they didn't record, or this one did record, but it's not as good. And well, you got to set up your own opportunities sometimes. You're not always going to be able to wait for an event to come around. You might need to create one, or just go and film in a theater and work with what you have for now until you get that next big event that you can film and make look gorgeous and amazing and all the things. But you can't let all these little things kind of get in your way. So figuring out that the other things that those would typically include are testimonials from places you've spoken before, logos from those places, all these different credibility building elements that go into kind of your speaker package. So that's the one first pillar. Like that kind of like is like what you're putting out there. People find you when you're going and pursuing them. This is what you kind of have established as your authority, and like this is the package. This is what they're hopefully now buying. And then the second pillar is your go-to-market strategy. So what are you doing? What is the best use of your time and resources? First, you're going to send all these new assets out, and I just keep calling them that, but your video, your speaker one pager, whatever, to your closest connections. Like that's where your business is always going to start, or your speaking opportunities are always going to come from. You got to be willing to put yourself out there and pull some strings, or do things for pro bono, and do whatever you can, because the more you speak, the more invitations you'll get to speak, because that's ultimately what you want to get to. But you're going after strategic events. So it's kind of like you're thinking about who do you really want to speak to, which is informed by the third pillar, your products and services. So ultimately, how are we optimizing to get you in front of your ideal clients and customers, establishing yourself as an authority through speaking, and then using that speaking opportunity to immediately capture new leads, like 3/4 of the way through your presentation. That's when you throw up the QR code with the free gift, or that you can offer, to include the slides and no one has to take any photos. And then you've got now, my clients tell me all the time, 80-90% of that audience, you've got email addresses at least. And sometimes you can even ask them if they might be interested in speaking follow-ups or whatever. So you are just filling your funnel. And then that has to then translate to, if you are literally putting them into a funnel, going to a digital course or to a webinar, to a Calendly link, or to something else. And also to your higher touch, higher ticket items, whether it's coaching or consulting. This can also be just an amazing pipeline for that. So those are the three components that I kind of coach people through. Some people, like I mentioned, are already all the way up, at the like products and services are pretty well dialed in. Other people are at different places, but you got to have that steady foundation, and then you can grow any way you want from there.
Oh, love it. Love it. So powerful. So Blair is going to be contributing across 3 distinct summit experiences, each focused on business growth through communication. So during his main stage, he's going to focus on how business owners can structure their message to support revenue, scale, and decision making without becoming salesy or inauthentic. Then he's going to do a little VIP training. So that is a title he has, is From Expertise to Execution, Structuring Your Message to Support Growth. And this is where you're really going to identify where unclear communication is blocking your sales and momentum. You're going to learn how to structure business conversations that lead to confident buying decisions. And you're going to create messaging that supports scalability, not constant explanation. And then he's going to do another bonus for our VIP people. He's going to give you a workshop. Your message is already selling. The question is how well. So you're going to understand how everyday business conversations impact your cash flow. You're going to learn how to align offers, your messaging, and buyer psychology. And you're going to build a repeatable communication structure that supports your long-term growth. Blair, this conversation highlights something essential. Most entrepreneurs don't need to work harder. They need to communicate with precision.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of working smarter, not harder, and optimizing everything that you're doing. And that's such an important thing if you're committing to any sort of work activity that takes you away from home, that brings you on the road, and, like maintaining that balance among all things.
Yeah, this is where the VIP experience is really coming in. So if this conversation resonated with you, if you realize that your business doesn't need more noise, but more clarity, I want to personally invite you to upgrade to VIP so you can work more with leaders like Blair. You're going to receive practical frameworks you can apply immediately, advanced business and monetization trainings, clear strategic instruction, not motivational fluff. And you're going to have replays and resources that you can return to as you scale. So this is really where business owners stop guessing and they start building intentionally, architecting that. So go ahead and upgrade to VIP now. Just join us inside and let your message start doing the work your business needs to do. Blair, thank you so much for bringing such grounded, practical leadership into this summit. Your work reminds us that communication isn't about being louder, it's about being understood.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, and I can't wait to see you all in the other sessions.
Yeah, to everyone watching, your business is already speaking, so make sure it's saying the right thing. We'll see you inside the Global Cash Summit.